week, I saw an article over at Red State by Jennifer Oliver O'Connell entitled, "Dear White Liberals, Blacks and Hispanics want no part of your anti-ICE protests." And it was so spot on. She writes that, look, while I cannot speak for young people, as a person of color, I know for a fact that blacks and Hispanics are pretty much over awful. And I love this phrase that she has coined, awful, AWFL, affluent white liberal females. Jennifer Oliver O'Connell is an investigative journalist, a writer, contributor. She writes at Red State, 1819 News, and on her As the Girl Turns Substack. Jennifer, welcome to the Mike Gallagher Show. How are you?
Doing great, Mike. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for coining the phrase. I don't know if you're going to get credit for it or if you give it to somebody else, but awful is perfect. Affluent white liberal females, AWFL. It's almost as if, and I've heard this over and over again on social media, affluent white liberal females are becoming America's greatest enemy.
I agree with you, Mike. I don't take credit for the phrase, but it definitely is apt concerning what is happening with these educated white females who have decided that they need to be the saviors for supposedly marginalized communities. That's illegal aliens, blacks, Hispanics, BIPOC is what they call them.
Yes, BIPOC. I lose track of all the letters.
Yes.
You know, Jesse Waters this week on Fox News said, for white women to be shrieking and spitting at and assaulting law enforcement officers, it's not natural, it's not normal, it's not sane. Before we get to why there is such a shortage of people of color at all of these anti-ICE protests, and as I said a moment ago, you explain it brilliantly in your column over at Red State. Do you agree with Jesse that there is something that is particularly unhinged about these white women who decide to put themselves in harm's way, not unlike what Renee Good tragically did last week when she was shot and killed?
There is a particular unhinged about it. It is not normal. And it is also not someone who has something in their soul. They are obviously seeking out, searching for some type of cause, something to make them feel special. It's very much third wave feminism, where they have rejected and pushed off all of the traditional roles, the things that God made women to do and women to be. And that includes some of the career stuff that we do very well. They've rejected all of that, so now they're searching for a new cause and something to fill that emptiness. And this is what they found. It's kind of scary.
You know, I've seen a lot of comparisons between the anti-ICE protests that we're seeing now in Minneapolis and the George Floyd protests, the so-called Summer of Love. And I swim a little bit against the tide from some of my conservative colleagues because, look, I said to a young black kid in America, seeing a guy die, regardless of the circumstances, we understand he had drugs in his system. We understand he was not a choir boy. We get all that. But you had a cop with his knee on this guy's back for a long period of time, 8-9 months. I guess I say all that to sort of understand people taking to the streets in anguish over George Floyd's death, particularly black folks. I understand that. I understand I have a very good friend, a black man, who said he wept. He knew that George Floyd wasn't a saint, but he felt that it should never have unfolded that way. But this time, Jennifer, it's different this time. And I don't know if it's fair to put the two periods of unrest in the same category. How do you see the protests that took place after George Floyd? And of course, we're not talking about the riots, and there were lots of riots. There's a lot of damage. There were a lot of people hurt. There were people killed. There was that off-duty officer, ironically a black guy in St. Louis, who was shot and who was killed. But to me, these are two entirely different events, different kinds of protests. Compare those two for us, if you would, Jennifer, and tell me what your thoughts are, what your takeaway is on the George Floyd reaction and the ICE reactions.
I am someone who is in the minority, maybe of minorities, who thinks that the 2020 George Floyd protests went way over the top.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that you should not feel for what George Floyd may have suffered before he died. That is not saying that at all. But the reaction to it, again, what accomplishes anything? Have riots accomplished anything for any community over the last my 50 some odd years? It hasn't. So why do we keep defaulting to this? So I didn't agree with it when it happened with George Floyd. And of course, what happens is that the radical left latches onto this and takes it and runs with it. And politicians, the heat seekers, they do the same thing. So George Floyd may have been something that they latched onto and, ran with to these destructive ends, and BLM took full advantage of it. But in terms of these current anti-ICE things, this is purely manufactured. They have people pouring money. One organization from Minneapolis is pouring money into ICE watch groups all over the place through another pass-through group. So a lot of money laundering going on. And politicians are setting the narrative before the narrative even happens, starting with Tim Walz, starting with Jacob Fry, the mayor. And then you have all of these politicians in Portland and every place else parroting things that have not happened and frankly fomenting violence.
Jennifer Oliver O'Connell is with us. She's a journalist, a writer. She writes at Red State and wrote a great piece about why blacks and Hispanics want no part of the anti-ICE protests. Going back for just a moment, Jennifer, to the George Floyd comparisons, do you think the George Floyd riots, and let's face it, I mean, you're right, there were in many cases, these were riots. Did that sort of set the table? Did that sort of put into place the violence we're seeing right now in the Minneapolis area over the presence of ICE law enforcement there?
I believe it did. It's Nancy Pelosi and the Congress kneeling in kente cloth. That ridiculousness. No one has really called that out. No one has said you need to pay a price for destroying the country this way. And so
Right.
therefore people have carte blanche to believe that okay, we can keep doing this and people will keep falling for it and we can get our agenda done.
Jennifer, we talk about what's normal and what's not normal. I played this clip on the show this week of Jacob Fry, the mayor of Minneapolis during the George Floyd era. I'll never forget the mayor of an American city kneeling at George Floyd's gold casket with one hand clasped on the handle of the casket and the other hand over his face, and he was sobbing and heaving and crying hysterically. Now, Jennifer, again, I'm not trying to minimize the death of George Floyd. I'm totally with you that the response went overboard, but that's not normal. That's the mayor of an American city sobbing and heaving and crying as if George Floyd was a member of his family. And I said on air as I played that video, and we're playing it right now as we speak, I said, this is a guy who lost control. And I immediately got corrected by a number of people in our audience who said, oh, no, no, no. He didn't lose control. He was very much in control. It was total performative theater. All he's doing is trying to put on a show for the cameras.
I think it's a little bit of both, frankly. He truly believes this stuff. He is the true social justice warrior. Believes all this claptrap about marginalization and social justice and all the things that they spout. He's a true believer, you can tell. But of course, yes, performative art in terms of you're going to see how much I care. I have to show you
Right.
how much I truly do care, my this poor white person and how my white privilege caused this and I must grieve. So yeah, part of it is performance art, but part of it is he truly believes this stuff, and it's kind of sad. I feel sorry for the people of Minneapolis because they have such a horrible individual for mayor.
I think about that all the time. I think about normals. Kurt Schlichter over at Town Hall uses that phrase a lot, normals. And I think about the normals in Minnesota who just have to think, my gosh, what has our state become under Tim Walz's failed leadership, his scandal plagued, presiding over the welfare fraud scandal there? What have we become in Minneapolis with a lunatic, frankly, like Jacob Frey? I loved what you wrote in your column about blacks and Hispanics and why they're not out protesting. This is something that I keep bringing up on the show daily. If you see the video of all of these agitators and activists and protesters, very few black or Hispanic people in these crowds. Explain to the audience why you believe that to be the case.
Well, first of all, we're not people who enjoy being played, and you played us on George Floyd. Some of us, not me, not a lot, but some of us. You played us on George Floyd. Frankly, they've been playing us. Democrats and the left have been playing us and manipulating us for so many years. Telling us you're supposed to be outraged about this because your people are being marginalized or your people are going to be next if you don't do something about this. Yet they pour in all of these illegals who take away minority jobs, who take away minority housing. I mean, look at Chicago. All of their centers they pushed them aside and took away their funding to bring in illegal aliens to house them. How rude is that? We're supposed to be so special. We used to be, yet you want us to vote for you every election because, oh, we're for you. They clearly showed that they were not for us during the Biden administration. If no one saw that, then they're blind. They clearly showed that. And so many blacks, Hispanics have said, no, we have no part of this. This is not us. Our America does not condone this. You cannot come in. And I think of all of the legal immigrants, who I know several, who came to this country, did it the right way. They are livid. They are outraged. Many of them Hispanic, many of them Honduran. And they have said, no, you aren't going to pull us into this clown show that you are trying to produce in order to get back at a president or have a certain result, or so someone else can make money off of our back. We're not going there.
To quote from your article, you say it's a fact that many blacks and Hispanics respect law enforcement, have family who are law enforcement, want them to do their jobs and be safe, and want to see law and order maintained everywhere. I saw attached to your article a clip from, I think, TikTok or X or something, a young black guy who said his message was, I'm here to save white liberals from the police. Just like black people in the hood, you need to understand that complying with the law gives you the best chance of survival. I love that. Yeah. It was like, there's a lesson that, I mean, it's like, it's so fundamental. I watch these people that sit there and get out of the car. No, I'm not going to get out of the car. Roll down the window. No, I'm not going to roll down the window. F you, F you. Look, you want to survive? If you're really afraid of the police, you better do what they tell you to do, or things might not go so well for you.
Yeah, I said to a fellow writer that, I kind of protested back in the day, mostly for pro-life causes, but it's very limited in its scope, what you can do with that. As far as I'm concerned, the keyboard is way mightier than a protest. And so that is the way I speak against things that are unjust or unfair. And the thing is, you have to survive, Mike, in order to be able to do that. You need to live another day. So why these people are choosing to come up against someone who, A, is armed, and B, has certain legal powers and legal rights is beyond me. And not expect there to be a hazardous result to that. And as far as I'm concerned, a good majority of the blacks that I know, the Hispanics that I know, we've got a whole lot of common sense, and that common sense was drilled in us through our families, through our mothers. You just don't do that. You live to fight another day. You just come home, and kind of like those law enforcement, we just want to come home.
Have you seen the old Chris Rock routine from years ago, where he does a whole
Yes.
big, like a 5 minute thing about, and he's just telling, black Americans, do the right thing. It's actually very funny, but but it's true. I mean, I think back when he did that, I don't think he would have ever envisioned that we are where we are right now.
Yeah, and that it is. I think Joy Reid, scary woman that she is, actually talked about Renee Good and how, well, white women are taking our place because they'll shoot black bodies, but they won't shoot them, and it's like, no, they'll shoot whoever. So
Exactly.
people are fostering this nonsense.
All right, Jennifer Oliver O'Connell, your work is terrific. Red State 1819 News as the girl turns Substack. How do you think, gaze into your crystal ball for us? Obviously, you're a smart lady and I respect your work. How do you think this is going to end? How does this play out? President Trump this week has threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act. A lot of people are saying, but that's exactly what the Democrats want him to do.
It's kind of scary because I would prefer him not. Because yeah, it is exactly what the Democrats want. They want to be able to run with that on the midterms. The left wants to continue to fund on it. These NGOs that still exist want to continue to fund on it. So my prayer is that calm will come to Minneapolis, that this surge of law enforcement officers will be a de-escalation, and that Tim Walz, it's like Jason Fry is starting to walk back, Tim Walz is not, that he will be dethroned and pushed aside, because otherwise, yeah, we're going to have an explosive situation, more explosive than it already is.
Jennifer Oliver O'Connell, keep fighting the good fight. I appreciate you joining us today here on the Mike Gallagher Show. All the best.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.